So what's going on, guys? Miami here with JST, and today we're going to be doing a little talk about the Kemper Profiler. I was up at Kyle Black's studio recently, and if you're not sure who that is, he's worked with bands like Paramore, State Champs, Newfound Glory, stuff like that, rock, pop, punk, and I was in his secondary room. And in that secondary room, there was a beautiful desk, and there was a Kemper laying inside the rack. And I had recently been looking up Kempers because I was curious if I might still want to grab one. He was like, take the thing. It's like, take it? He's like, yeah, just don't let me forget you have it. We gonna let you forget, Kyle. No one's running to tell you that they borrowing that amp. And my first reaction when he said that was like, sick, this is awesome. But then I was kind of thinking about it and I'm like, is this awesome? Do I actually really even want this in the year 2023? Well, do not worry, my friends, because by the end of this episode, you'll have my opinion, a couple thoughts on whether it would make sense to still get a Kemper in the year 2023. The reality is we have all types of amplifiers out right now, all types of modelers, new things, Axe effects, quad cortex and stuff. Why would we want to grab something like the Kemper? First, I'm gonna start off with some things that I think are positives. Even though technology is moving at the speed of light right now, there's some things that are really magical about the Kemper. And I remember having this conversation with Joey a while back as we were thinking about it and we're like, yo, how does this thing actually even work and how does it profile these amplifiers so accurately? It does it better than almost anything that I've ever seen before. And some things are just magic, right? It's like you could sit there and try to figure it all out, but it's like magic, NAM profiler, magic, soothe, magic. This is one of those things. It's just like magic. Wait, there is another thing about the Kemper that I do want to talk about. The fact that there is one Kemper, okay? I don't know how you guys feel about this, but whenever I see Axe effects Ultra, Axe effects 1, 2, 3 HD, like all that stuff, I'm just like, bro, can you guys just make one unit that I can buy and not have to constantly be trying to update throughout the years? The beauty of the Kemper, there is one, it gets constant updates. It does not have any negative drawbacks right now. There's a couple things I think you could do to improve the Kemper, but most of which can be done through updating, software updates. I don't like a lot of other modelers that are constantly doing things. Imagine if we had like Howard Benson Vocals 1, and then you bought it, and then we're like, now we have Howard Benson Vocals 2, and you're like, okay, that's kind of cool. I mean, you just dropped that 2 years ago, but whatever you say. And now we have Howard Benson Vocals 3 Plus, 3 Advanced. After a while, it's like, should I be investing my money into this company? Are you guys doing this as a ploy to keep me on the hook? Is this like some kind of marketing thing to just keep you guys getting paid? I don't know. I don't want to talk negatively about companies or whatever. The Axe effects is a great unit, great product, but that's just how I feel when I see stuff like that. So it wouldn't even be a question for me if it's like Kemper or Axe effects. I'm going Kemper. A lot of times people are like, Miami, can you just give your thoughts, give a finalized opinion? Well, there you go. There's one of them. Okay. If those are your two choices, I'm going Kemper. Actually, instead of just talking about it, let's listen to something that was reamped with a Kemper versus a plugin. We'll use ToneForge Disruptor. Both of these are going to be played back to back, and you tell me which one was the Kemper Profiler and which one was the AmpSynth. Well, just so you guys know, example A was ToneForge Disruptor and example B was the Kemper. Both of those happen to sound awesome though, because it's 2023. All this stuff sounds great, man. And if you're looking for your copy of ToneForge Disruptor, go get your 14-day free trial at joeysturgistones.com. The link will be in the description below. One thing we also have to remember is when this came out, there was nothing like it. It changed the landscape of amps overnight. Because now it was a thing where if you had an entire amp collection, all you had to do was just buy this thing and you could now have a copy of all of your favorite tones in the box. Entire companies were started because of these things. You have to give it to them for being the people that pioneered such technology. Kind of like what Line 6 did back with software and amp sims back in the day, right? Like if it wasn't for them, it wouldn't have started a market that was so competitive trying to beat that item out. So some positive things about the Kemper. One, you can use it in the studio and on the road. It's not that heavy, especially if you have like the toaster model. The one that I have is the one that Kyle has, is the rack unit, and it is awesome. It is lightweight. I don't have to worry about breaking my back. It's the powered one. It can go to a cab if you wanted to, and you essentially can bring your entire studio with you on the road, or just literally have it sitting in the passenger seat of your car. Not that that's the smartest idea, but you can do it if you wanted to. One of the mainstays of the Kemper is how big the community is. There are tons of people making profiles all the time, sharing profiles. There are people selling profiles, wink wink, JST does that. Tons of other companies are also doing that. So you always have a way, even if you don't have amplifiers, to use this thing. It comes with some pretty awesome profiles too. So that is a big plus for the Kemper. We can't talk about the positives without the negatives, right? A lot of advancements have been made since the decade that this thing has been out. We have amp sims now that it is damn near impossible to tell the difference between a real amp. You can carry those around on your laptop. We have other options. There's the Axe effects, there is the Quad Cortex, but then there's the Helix, which is also really awesome. Tons of stuff has come out since its debut. These are all options, and a lot of them are cheaper options, so you have to think about that. And plugins you can grab for a much lower cost, and they're on your laptop that you're most likely going to have with you anyways. If you're out playing, you can really just plug in that way. That's what I would do personally. Now, another thing we could talk about is how the Kemper looks. Does it look dated? I don't think that it looks dated at all. It actually kind of fits great in my rack over here, so hoping that it stays over there. And it has a very futuristic look, kind of has like a spaceship thing going on. It's got tons of buttons, and I like buttons. Hopefully you like buttons too. Hit that like button, subscribe button, and notification bell to be notified when we drop new content. Transition game is still crazy. Yeah, the next thing that I have to think about with the Kemper is versatility of options. There are an endless amount of amplifiers that this thing covers, literally every single amp in tons of different combinations. There are tons of onboard effects that all sound phenomenal. Out of the other modelers that I've tried, the effects on this tend to sound the best in my opinion. But there are some negative things too, right? Because let's say you're taking this for your band and you want to go out on the road. Each one of you has to have a Kemper. Each one of you has to have a setup. If you have the Quad Cortex, essentially you can power your entire band just off of this one little unit. And that's really useful, especially if you have multiple guitarists, bass player. You can literally just send that stuff to front of house. You don't even have to think about it anymore. So that is a bit of a negative there. Now we have to talk about the concept of ease of use. The Kemper is a little daunting when you first take a look at it. It's not the simplest thing to use. If you're trying to dial in a sound, there are tons of profiles you can go to, but let's say you just had a bare bones Kemper and you're hooking it up to an amp and you have to figure out how to profile it. It's not the simplest thing in the world. I would put it in the moderate category versus something like a plugin where you're going to be able to just pop that guy right in and it's going to be able to work instantaneously. So there's a little bit of work that comes with it, and you have to add that too. Yeah, the more that I'm thinking about it, the more I'm kind of like talking myself out of the need for it. But there is a big part of this, the accuracy of the thing. And I think that that matters a lot. As far as the modeling aspect of it, how does the modeling compare to these other things? It is the best. There is no other modeler right now that sounds as close as a Kemper. If you compare a Kemper to the real amp and go back and forth and you're in a blind shootout, like, you're not going to be able to figure that out unless you just understand the way that the compression works on the Kemper. Like, you're not going to be able to figure it out, especially in a mix. I promise you, there's no one that's going to be able to tell. So it is still the most accurate in that format, but there are other things that sound just about as good with a lot less headache. This is a bit more in the realm, I would say, of like the prosumer, the person that wants to tweak with their knobs, mess with stuff. If you're a person that likes having hardware gear, that's also important, because if you have someone coming into a studio sometimes and you're like, I have the plugins for this or whatever, once in a while you're gonna have someone that's like, oh, well, I like real amps. Like, this is a good medium to where they can still go in and they can mess with knobs, they can turn treble, they can turn bass, they can turn the gain up. It's still a physical unit that's tangible in their hands. There's buttons for them to press. You can hook up a pedal to it so that you can play through it. It sounds great. Man, this is harder than I thought it was gonna be. because every other second I'm like talking myself into and out of whether I'm gonna use this thing. Yeah, I don't really know, but yeah, this is tough. One thing that I do have to talk about though is the community of huge producers that are making products for this thing. The biggest names in the world have Kemper packs out now, and you can not just have your own studio, but you can have everyone's studio in a tiny little box. But yeah, thinking about it now, if I want the sound of Blink-182 or Bring Me the Horizon, and I want to be able to just pull that thing up or have that live sound and not have to think too much about it, once I get past the learning curve of how to load everything using the Kemper rig, understanding how to reamp in and out of it, bring it on the road, like once you understand the core concepts, it's still a very important tool to have in 2023. Thinking about it now, there's my answer. I've come to the conclusion. So to sum this up for you guys, does it make sense in the year 2023 to have a Kemper? If you are in the studio or a touring musician, it actually doesn't matter. It makes sense. It makes sense one way or another. As long as the community around it is still making products for it, as long as Kemper profile packs keep coming out, or even if you just found one that you love and you use all the time, as long as that exists for you and you can bring it with you wherever you go. So my vote is 2023, love the Kemper, gonna use it, gonna keep on using it. Makes sense to bring out on stage, makes sense if a band needs a specific sound and you wanna be able to just pull that up. You can probably find it online. There's no beat in that. So thank you guys for watching. I hope you had a good time checking this out. Do you have any thoughts on the Kemper? Is this something that's been on your wish list for a while? Leave it in the comments below and I'll chat with you fine people like I always do.